ladies and gents. Welcome to Guys D.I.Y.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Welcome to Guys D.I.Ys, and today, like I promised, we're gonna show you how to make Michonne's katana.
You don't look so good.
I'm okay.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, do you want to show him the katana that you have? Oh. We're gonna show you how to make the katana. So let's do it.
Here's what you're gonna need for this project. A thin board of wood with these dimensions. 2 scrap 2x4s, some PVC pipe, a heat gun, scissors and X-Acto knife, a ruler, some brown leather fabric, and some ribbons or some old shoelaces. The first thing I did was some research. A katana's handle is about the length of your forearm, and the blade made the whole thing 23.5 inches, but since I'm making this for my sister, I used her forearm as a reference. I took some clamps and clamped them down onto the table, and then bowed my ruler to trace the blade's shape on the wood. I then made 1-inch marks to know how big to make the blade of the katana, and repeated the ruler step to trace the other side, then cut it out on my bandsaw. I'll be using the bandsaw a lot in this episode. I then used my friend's belt sander to sand down all the rough edges and sanded a bevel on the front of the katana. Keep in mind, I'm not making it sharp. I'm stopping when the bevel is at least a centimeter. Next, I laid the blade down onto one of the scrap 2x4s and traced the shape of the blade on it. This will become a channel for the blade to fit as a case for the katana. There should be a 1/2 inch gap from the channel to the edge of the case. Then cut out the case. Then I took the second 2x4 and stacked the first one on top of that and traced it onto the second one, and cut that out as well. Next, I taped the blade onto the first 2x4 I traced the blade onto and sandwiched it onto the second 2x4 piece. Take the tape off and the top piece, and then trace the blade on the other 2x4. Now I need to work on the handle. I took the PVC pipe and measured how much of it I'll need. Then I took my heat gun and softened the PVC to flatten it. I then realized the 1-inch pipe that I was using was going to be too big, so I found some 3/4 inch pipe and heated it and flattened it as well. Then I put it onto the handle section of the blade. You may have to reheat it to get it to fit properly. Next, I used my Dremel and a milling bit to drill a channel for the case. I even made lines every 2 inches to make chiseling them out easier. Once the channel was finished, I put both pieces together and made sure the channel was smooth enough for the katana to slide in and back out. I ran into no problems. After laying down some wood glue and spreading it with an old brush, I set the 2 halves of the case together and used clamps to hold it together. I was very religious with the clamps. Once it was dry, I took a wood planer and basically shaved the wood down. My goal here was to make the case rounded and less bulky like it was. I then took some EVA floor mat foam and traced the handle of the katana onto it, cut it out, cut it in half, and cut the edges at an angle. Then I painted a few layers of silver spray paint on the blade. Once it was dry, I used contact cement to glue the foam onto the PVC handle. The way how contact cement works is you paint a layer on both ends that you want to glue together and let it almost dry. Then you can stick them together. After putting the foam on both sides, I wrapped the handle with some brown leather. Now I needed to work on the handguard. I traced a circle with scrap cardboard tubing onto some wood. Use 1/2 inch wood here, then cut it out. I then made some stencils for the guard, one for the design and one to tell me where the center was for the blade to go through. After cutting out the center hole, I traced the other stencil onto both sides of it and used my Dremel again to mill out the design. Then used a hammerhead color to paint it. I wrapped the case in brown leather and used old shoelaces and super glue on the handle of the katana. I wrapped the lace by twisting it when I got to the sides of the handle. I did the same thing on the case. I slid the guard over the blade and then used wood glue to keep it secure. I then took an old leather purse I found in the thrift store and cut off the strap. I attached it to the case using some leftover strips of brown leather. Next, I used some paracord and used super glue to wrap it around the tip of the case, and then used contact cement to glue a strip of black craft foam over it, and then glued more of the foam on top. I then cut out some squares from a Tupperware lid and glued them above the guard. I attached the other end of the strap to the case, and then I was done.
Kai!
I'm okay.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
You're burning up. You're bleeding.
No, that's I just spilled juice on me.